Welcome to the Labyrinth. I'm your host, Pratham Padu. After a very long time, I'm having a Mangalorean as my guest. My guest today is Sunil Stephen, the co-owner of Trattoria, a popular restaurant here in Mangalore. He's also a speaker, an investor, a venture capitalist, and he recently started the Realtalk community in Clubhouse app. Welcome to the Labyrinth.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So
it's a pleasure being here.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good,
I think things are a bit slow because of the COVID pandemic, but other than that, it's going on.
Yeah. How is the restaurant business now that the lockdowns are slowly coming to an end?
Frankly, we do not know if the pandemic is getting over, if the lockdown is coming to an end, because they keep extending it eventually, because it can be for several reasons. One, that they don't want to scare people or give people a shock of their lives, saying, we are closed for 2-3 months or something like that. So they keep extending it slowly, week by week. So hopefully the lockdown will come to an end. But frankly, if it's necessary, I would prefer them keeping the lockdown than spreading the COVID. But I think as restaurateurs, we are happy that the lockdown is coming to an end, because I think most of us in India, especially restaurateurs and hotels, the hospitality industry is facing a huge problem when it comes to lack of funds and lack of income. So in one way, it is good news, but then we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah. What was the idea behind starting Trattoria in Mangalore?
Actually, I think, frankly speaking, it's mostly because of what I like to do as a passion. My first restaurant was in Bangalore. I started with a restaurant in Bangalore in Orion Mall called M Express. And with that, I got influenced into the food industry, because I believe that no matter how bad the economy is, no matter what the situation of the country is, people will never stop eating or going to the hospital. That's a very beautiful industry that never gets old, because everyone's hungry every day. And I think our generation, compared to the previous generation, prefers eating out. So I think the whole point of starting Trattoria was because I came across a chef who is my partner at the moment. He's a very famous chef, worked for the ITC and etc. I think he was the main reason why I got into Trattoria, because we both had a plan. And basically, he's being a chef, he takes care of one department. Me being into management administration, I take care of that department of the restaurant. Hence, it is a very smooth partnership. And frankly, we always improved, we always learned, we learn from each other, we learn a lot from customers. I think, yes, talking about influence again of Trattoria, I think Mangalore needed a place for students, especially because if you noticed, every year in colleges, number of NRIs are increasing. And you can't expect them to eat the same food every day. And hence we started Trattoria. And my partner's sister owns a very famous restaurant called Tanto in Oroville. And her husband is an Italian. So he, being an Italian, we have taken his recipes. So what we serve there is either actual Italian or a fusion.
Okay. But is it difficult to run a high-end restaurant in Mangalore?
I think it's difficult to run any restaurant in Mangalore, because what happens is you need to know that the size of the restaurant and the number of staff, determines the overhead costs, determines the break-even point of the restaurant. Yeah. So I think no matter what size of the restaurant is, for example, if it's a small restaurant, you have 4 tables. If it is a big restaurant, you have 50 tables. You get my point, right? So in the end, the break-even point, the concept is the same. So breaking even is very important. And I think it is the same for all restaurants, no matter what the size is. The idea is basically the same.
And you said authentic Italian food. Some people may not understand the idea of authenticity. For example, if I talk about tiramisu, when people in Mangalore think of tiramisu, they think of the tiramisu in ideal pubs. I love that tiramisu. Okay, but yeah, I know it's not the actual Italian tiramisu. The actual tiramisu looks more like a cake than an ice cream. And when customers come to a restaurant like yours, where you serve the authentic tiramisu, do they get confused, or is there any misunderstanding?
Yes, I think the problem is that some people have this box mentality where they know, just because they had it once or they tasted it once or they tried it once, they know what it is. frankly, yes, tiramisu in Ideals is amazing, and they are the first one to start it. But tiramisu served in Ideals is not the actual tiramisu. Uh, Tiramisu consists of mascarpone cheese, eggs. It's a whip of eggs and sugar, and ladyfinger biscuits. It's a beautiful dessert. Sometimes we do add, rum in it, which makes it even more tastier. But yeah, I think we get a lot of clients come and tell us, you know what, hey, I was expecting an ice cream and not a dessert. And we tell them, so this is the real thing. And we also had customers tell us, no, this is not the real thing because I have tasted it. And when I go and tell them and ask them, where have you tasted it? They go like, we have tasted it at Ideals. So eventually it's what to tell them in a situation, because how do you convince people?
You should tell
It's
them,
not the real
have you tasted it in Italy?
Exactly. No, no, you won't believe me. We had a lot of people, Indians, come to me and say, this is not what Italian tastes like. And we also had Italians come to our restaurant, give us recipes from their book, from their families. We have Italians come and tell us, this is the closest what you have eaten to Italian pizzas. And we still have Indian customers come and tell us this is not Italian. So we do not know, literally how to convince people that, and plus we are not in a convincing race. We are not there. We are just here to provide good food and education. And if you noticed, we have an Instagram handle for Trattoria where we put up information about food. So we try to educate people about food. Like, for example, my friend had this incident. He owns a sushi place, and eventually people come and tell him sushi is not hot. It's not piping hot. Why is it not hot? I want hot food. So we have situations like that, and we learn to deal with it. I think being in this field, you just learn to say, okay, in the end,
Yeah, that's the whole philosophy of customer knows everything. Customer is king. But sometimes customer doesn't know everything. It's it's the business go ahead.
Knows. Yeah. No, I think, see, the whole point of making the field customer knows everything is important. But then at the same time, it's educating them. Because let's face it, I'm not going to walk into a hospital and get a vaccination in my hand and tell the doctor, you know what, you gave it to me wrong. You get my point? Because we have a mentality saying that, okay, doctor knows more than us because he's educated. But that's not the way we see restaurateurs or any other business. We tend to walk in saying that we also know a lot about this. So I think it's the way people need to see a restauranting field or any other field for that matter, that these people who are serving you, who are giving you service or products, are professionals in their own way. And because we don't have a PhD or something, or we don't belong to a particular field, we are not taken into that consideration that we know a lot more than them.
Yeah. And do you ever get irritated by food bloggers sometimes when they leave reviews that
bad,
not necessarily bad reviews, but sometimes food reviewers give reviews that don't even make sense? Have you had that experience?
Yes, but I'll tell you, because of Google reviews, we have lost the whole concept of food reviewers, food bloggers, and food critics. Because Google reviews have made it so open for everyone to leave a review. Anyone can leave any reviews. First thing. Second thing, we also have people who don't like us. Our competitors leave wrong reviews also. And luckily, what happens is we know. We know who are bad, who are good, who are doing it on purpose, who are genuine customers. But we always tell our customers, what, if something is wrong with anyone, may it be a hotel or a service or a product, I would request you to come and tell the owner first. If it is bad, give us a chance to fix it, because I'm pretty sure no one wants to serve something bad in their restaurant, because we want money, we want customers, we want more people to come, and we want to be pretty known in the society. So nobody does it on purpose. So if something is wrong with the food, please tell the owner. And if the food is amazing, please tell the world. And yes, we do get irritated with some reviews. Like I have people, come and say, I waited for 30 minutes to be served. And we go like, this is not Maggie. You know what I mean? And I can't tell people this, of course, because, they will eventually leave me a bigger bad review. But, it crosses my mind. See, when you come to a restaurant, 30 minutes is minimum. Those are basic etiquettes of understanding. And I think so reviews play a very important role in this field. But sadly, I think people who are reading those reviews should also be educated enough to understand if the review is right or wrong.
Do
So
you
yeah.
think there's some danger with food influencers having too much influence?
Frankly speaking, I think there is no danger with I think no, wait. I think there is. Frankly, when I think about it now, yes, I think food bloggers and food influencers having too much influence is a bad thing, because you can literally close a restaurant down because of bad reviews, and it has happened in Mangalore. And again, these reviews are based on one-time visit, not the second time. Which I really think is wrong. Do not leave a review if it's the first time. Always give them a second chance to fix their mistake, or at least bring it to their notice. For example, we had a review of maybe I think salt being a bit more in our food, and eventually what happens, people don't understand, is we serve the same food to a lot of people same day, to everyone, during the whole day process. So eventually, if you have a problem in that food, everyone else is also going to have a problem, because the teaspoon of salt that's going in is the same. We can't overfill a teaspoon. It's mostly to the max that we fill and we put it in, for example. So we can't put 2 teaspoons in 1 teaspoon. You get it? So eventually, if there's a salt problem, you can always bring it on notice. We'll replace it for you. But I would not suggest anyone to leave a review based on something like that, because it can also be, depending on your palate. Maybe you're a person who eats less salt or less sugar. So all that matters. And I really want people to understand that it is your point of view. And even when you come to a restaurant and you might not like something I serve, when you use a term, the food was not good, I think it's very wrong. I would rather prefer you say, I did not like the food, because taste differs from people to people.
Yeah, I mean, food taste is subjective, but like you said, a restaurant got closed because of it could get closed because of bad reviews. It seems pretty unfair, because as owners, you put a lot of effort. The chef puts a lot of effort. The waiters put a lot of effort, and a lot of people will lose their livelihoods just because of one bad review. It seems quite unfair, right?
No, it is unfair. It is unfair because, I mean, frankly, the world is unfair. I mean, there are so many instances where you see people in different field. Like, for example, you must have seen recently how doctors are being beaten up for people, eventually dying because of COVID, because of, lack of their own knowledge, or, sometimes faith, whatever you call it. It happens in every field, but in the end, what we do is we try our best to stay afloat and, hope our customers understand, because in the end, we also have something called customer loyalty, where we have at least, maybe minimum of 50% of customers who have sense, who know what food we serve, and that it takes time sometimes. But in the end, we also have faced the most educated people being very rash, very arrogant. And I think I remember during my times of my restaurant, I used to also work as a waiter, because I prefer mingling with customers, trying to understand what they want, because that is very important. And I remember being the waiter, and I noticed the most richest and the most educated people are the most rudest people. Sad but true. It is the more humble people, and more who come to visit a restaurant once a year or once a month. They are more polite. And I believe that everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves respect, and I believe that if there's a beautiful saying, it goes like, if you want to know a person's character, see the way he treats the waiter.
Yeah. And now, since we're in lockdowns, we depend on food deliveries. We can't go and avail dining services. So now most of the deliveries happen through Swiggy and Zomato. Do you think we should be using Swiggy and Zomato, or should I call the restaurant directly?
I think calling the restaurant directly is a lot of help, because there are so many things involved in this. So you need to understand that there are two sides of the story. You have a customer side, and you also have a restaurateur side. The customer side is, we have got used to Swiggy and Zomato, because you need to understand that they are giving us the ease of access to a lot of restaurants just in one app. And the human tendency is to be lazy. People prefer things being easily accessible. But if you really think about it, before Swiggy and Zomato, people used to just call and order directly. But also, there are problems in some restaurants where we don't have delivery personnel, so normally you have to order through Swiggy. But on a small brief of how Swiggy and Zomato works, they take nearly 30% of our income. And if you noticed, Swiggy and Zomato do not use the term delivery service, they use the term delivery partner. So in other words, they're literally taking share of our business, and which is really bad. they are literally bullying us. As far as I know, we are facing a lot of problems from them, because you need to understand that they keep increasing the percentage every 2 years or every year. And it started with 8%. Now it's all the way to 30. And what is stopping them to go to 50%? And if you really think about it, Swiggy and Zomato, there's a lot to think about, because if you see, they also had something in plan where they wanted to open cloud kitchens, where they set up everything and they let you run it. Now imagine a company like Swiggy and Zomato having all the data of the food you sell, what food Mangalore likes the most, and apparently ice creams are the top. But yeah, they already have that data, and they can literally open a cloud kitchen, serving all the food that's available in all the restaurants in one kitchen, and literally destroy all of us, which is a possibility. I mean, you have to think about it. And I really would suggest all customers to always find out, call the restaurant directly, find out if they have delivery, because it's going to cost you at least, maybe sometimes up to $100 less. So I think it's common sense that you take a little bit of effort to save that money, where you can use that money to order again next time. But of course, if there is a minimum order limit, for example, if you want to buy one dessert of maybe $50 and the restaurant is not delivering, of course you can go to literally Zomato. But you need to understand one thing is, when a restaurant is telling you to order a minimum of $100 and you want an item of $50, but when you buy the $50 item in Swiggy or Zomato, it's nearly going to cost you $100 anyways. So you might as well buy 2 items from the restaurant. So I wish people did the math.
It's a win-win situation for both the business and the customer if they call them directly rather than
directly. It is. But then I can't speak for all restaurants, because sometimes when you have a little bit of less funds, we can't afford a delivery person, But maybe once everyone moves into directly coming to ordering from the restaurant, maybe people could afford, but most of them do deliver directly. And I think this applies to all over India, because I think people should order from the restaurants directly, because whether you like it or not, tomorrow your favorite restaurant might die. And I think I was literally going around in Mangalore, in my location, looking at my favorite restaurants, and some of them are closed now. And it's really sad, because you need to understand one thing: because of the COVID situation, a restaurant cannot survive with only deliveries. It's the dining that is really important for us.
Yeah, hopefully things get back to normal. Let's speak a little bit about entrepreneurship. What do you think are the biggest challenges for an entrepreneur today?
I think something I always work against, I think it's the financial problem that everyone faces in our country, because either people are not educated by the government schemes that are available for an entrepreneur, or it's hard for people to convince people of their idea of plan, or maybe get an investor on board. And I think that's a major problem, which is causing something called brain drain, which I am against, where people leave India, use the talents abroad to make money for that country and not for your own country. And that is exactly why the economy is not going to rise eventually, because it depends on what you contribute to your country, that makes the country better. So I think again, the most let's say a bad thing that entrepreneurs face is the lack of financial assistance, because you need to understand even how banks work. They literally need a collateral for you to give a loan, and eventually that doesn't make sense to me. I always thought, I wish I could literally talk to the banks and tell them, if you expect people to give collateral, why do I need a bank? If I it's funny when banks do not call a person who's doing who has low income saying, do you need a loan? They only call the billionaires. In the end, it's business. It's nothing to do with helping people out. So, but there are schemes by the government, by the Prime Minister, to help entrepreneurs, but I don't think it does make that difference when it comes to reach. I think they should do more on educating people about these schemes and loans available.
Yeah. Another reason why entrepreneurs shy away from another reason why young people shy away from entrepreneurship is because of fear of failure. How do we think how do we think we can learn to accept failure and move on?
I think that is one of my most favorite topics I talk about, mostly when it comes to, when I visit colleges, degree colleges or MBA colleges. I tell them, I have this beautiful term, normalizing failures. We come from a society where we are taught to come first. Yeah. And we are taught to get 100 or 100. We are always pressurized to be the best. We always compared. And this is causing a very negative effect, whether you understand or not. Because how do I know I'm first? It's very simple, by blaming the other person that he's not. Exactly. And think about it. You always think about, people, always, thinking that they are better than someone else. And that's the input that your parents, the society puts in you, that you need to get 100 or 100 to be better than the next person. And that gives you an ego eventually, right? Eventually, it also influences your mindset on how you see people, and literally, I wish there could be a study done on this, because this is a serious issue that we face throughout the world. It doesn't have to be a particular race or a country, or you get my point, or a caste or a religion. It is a very common thing that we all face. And I have noticed, when I normally go to these colleges, especially people who are doing their masters, and I ask them, what do you want to be? And the answer is very different from what they want to do and what they want to be. It's crazy. And I tell them one thing. To figure out the whole room that I'm speaking to, I tell them, if I could, I would give you $1 million right now. What would you be doing? What career or path would you choose? And you have $1 million in your bank. And I have people say artists, actors, singers, and stuff like that, which has nothing to do with the field that they're learning in. And that surprises me. And I ask them why. They're like, we're too scared to follow what we want, because our parents want us to do this. And, we're supposed to earn money and live a life, get married, have kids. If you realize that this has become a problem where, all the rules and regulations and an idea of life is already being preset. We come from a society where, studying all your life, okay, working really hard, getting married, having kids, it become a part of life. That's not true. You can always be single, you can always live life, you can travel, you can do things from home, you can work from home, you can be a creator, you can be a designer. Of course there are people like that, but it's very few when it comes to support from family, that you get support from family doing things which are not either an engineer, a doctor, or a pilot for that matter. But I think every field should be given importance. And I think we all are scared to fail, because the society has showed us what fear is, and fear is a state of mind. And it is inculcated from birth, because you need to understand, we always want our kids to be better, but we always put it in the wrong way. And we need to put it in the right way. We always tell them get 100. No, we don't have to tell them to get 100. We can always tell them to do good and, have knowledge about all the fields. You can always encourage them to do, things which is a little bit outside the, basic study nature of schools. So I think if you notice now also, when you really think about it, it's the electricians and the plumbers who are charging more. It's a fact. How you might get a doctor tomorrow in a hospital in a few minutes, but to get a plumber or electrician, it's so freaking hard. Yeah. But whether you like it or not, they're looked down upon. Yeah. But we all need them. You know what I mean, right? Because everyone contributes to society. There's no big, small, first, second. That's what I want people to see. So hence, how you bring up your child, determines how scared he is and how much fear he has in his mind. And I think that shouldn't happen. You should let people do what they want to do. Because imagine spending maybe out of, if you're going to live for 100 years, and actually frankly I think the life expectancy is around 70 or 60 now. If you want to live for 60, 70, 80 years for that matter, and you spend nearly 60 years studying or working, just for the 10 years of retirement and being happy and traveling the world where you obviously can't because you're too old to travel, I think that's a very sad thing.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, we are conditioned to think this way, and our education system, which is also outdated, influences us. And they use this word career, focus on your career. Every time we try to deviate and try to follow our dreams, they say, no, focus on your career. Do you think career has become a bad word?
No, actually, career is not a bad word. It has got the wrong meaning. You got it. See, what has happened is when somebody says career, you should ask them, what do you mean by career? I'm pretty sure they will not have a definition, because you need to understand they're associating career with being a doctor, engineer, or a pilot, or etc. Something which is very common. The whole point of career is literally earning money from doing something you love. It can be anything that doing that you love, where you're earning money to sustain, or it can also be a career where you're not earning any money. Because see, if you see non-profit organizations, volunteers, some of them some of them use it as a career, but they are not building houses, massive bungalows, and so in the end, career is what you're doing that helps you sustain. So I think career is not a bad thing, but I think it's understood wrong, and people need to be educated about what career means.
Yep. And as an entrepreneur, do you think there's a lot of stress that you face? Are there any mental health challenges that entrepreneurs face? And if there is a lot of stress, how do you beat stress?
I think beating stress is your choice. It's how you want to beat stress and what is your outlet. But I think being an entrepreneur, there are a lot of challenges we face. If you notice, you can always ask an entrepreneur who's been an entrepreneur for a couple of years. I think 90% of them will say, I wish I had a job, corporate job, where you just go to work at 8 in the morning and come back at 6 in the evening, or 8 to 8, whatever. But if you ask a person who's working a corporate job, I wish, I was an entrepreneur. So there's always,
the grass is always greener on the other side.
The other side. But the thing is, you need to understand that entrepreneurs also face a lot of problems when it comes to, first of all, their own customers, when it comes to sales or providing services, because we deal with customers, we deal with staff. And I think staff shortage is a very big problem in India. Getting the right staff also is a big problem. And if you notice, most of us, we spend, for example, when we have a new staff, we spend at least 3 months training them. After training them, they disappear. So we wait for someone else new to come. Again, we spend 3 months. So eventually getting right staff is very important. And that's the major problem we face. And then it's customer satisfaction. We also have problems in finances to keep up with, the overheads, the taxes that we need to pay. And I frankly think, I'm not an economist, but frankly, I think that this economy is not good for entrepreneurs. I mean, especially small-time entrepreneurs like us. And when you think about other problems when it comes to mental stress, we deal with a lot of mental stress, and we have stress from everywhere. Like literally, we go to work, we have stress, because I'll tell you one thing: running a business is like running going to a KG school or a KG classroom, where you have to tell people every day what has to be done. Every day a set of rules have to be given, a set of timelines have to be given. It's very hard for expect people to do what they're supposed to do. And it happens everywhere. It happens with me, it happens to everyone, so because it's human nature to get away from work, somehow try to screw the system, and so you have to deal with staff. And then problems like this eventually leave you with mental stress, and it can be depression, it can be anxiety, it can be any disorder for that matter. I think even BP, literally even health problems are caused with business related situations. But I think everyone goes through it. When you think about mental health, it's very vast, because I know people who have all the money in the world, a beautiful family, but still suffer from depression. So depression is a disease. I'm talking about depression in particular. It is not an outcome of a particular situation. And dealing with stress, we have different ways to deal with stress. Frankly speaking, some people like to listen to music, some people go to sleep, some people enjoy a good dinner or a good drink, some people enjoy a good smoke. Frankly, other than that, unless you're really suffering from mental stress or mental problems, you might have to visit a therapist, or maybe a psychiatrist or psychologist. But other than that, there are different outlets to relax. So it is everyday thing.
And you're also an investor, a venture capitalist. What kind of businesses have you invested in?
My first investment was, of course, a restaurant, which was in Bangalore, and that was my first investment, and that is how I got an idea of investing, and I started learning more about venture capitalism, etc. And eventually, my first investment was by loan, where I had taken a loan from a bank. It wasn't money that I had or something. It was the risk I took, because I see the whole point of this. This is a very beautiful, concept of why backbenchers become successful. People always say, backbenchers become entrepreneurs, and it's always that idea. But in the end, see, backbenchers are not successful because they bunked classes or they didn't study enough, or they got low marks. I'm not generalizing it, but just my point of view. Backbenchers are successful because they were ready to take risks. You got it. Eventually, we were the backbenchers who used to sit behind and, take a risk of not writing the assignment, or, take a risk of getting screwed. And from a very small age, we got used to, taking risks, made in school or college, or, not having the fear of being screwed. And hence that leads to you being an entrepreneur, where you don't have that fear of what the outcome is going to be because you're enjoying the journey. And I think being an investor, I think I started off with the restaurant, then I got into investing in a digital marketing firm, then an architectural firm, and then IT web-based firm. Eventually, I knew that IT was the future. IT, medical, or food is something I always look into investing.
Okay, have you learned any lessons from investing in digital marketing and architectural firm? Would you like to share some examples?
I see one thing is investment is like playing poker or walking into a casino. Because I remember when I used to go with my friends who are much elder than me, who I look up to, who are entrepreneurs, CEOs of companies, and they used to take me gambling with them. Okay, and I used to go to these casinos, and I remember the first time I went, and this is where I learned about business first, this mentality about business that they have when it comes to entrepreneurship, etc., and investing. I remember going for the first time to the casino. I remember asking them to carry bags. And they said, why? I said, no, you have to put the money in, right? We're going to win a lot of money and we need to put it somewhere on the way back. And they all laughed at me and I was being naive, literally I was like, I know poker very well, I know blackjack very well. I'm good at it. So, we're all going to make a lot of money. And they all laughed at me and they said one thing. They said, life is like a casino. When you enter it, remember, think you're going to lose. Always prepare for the worst, plan for the best. So don't have the mentality where you're getting into a business or investing. Don't have the mentality that you're going to make millions. You should be open to losing. The moment you're open to losing, the moment you're open to lose all your money the next day, then get into investing. Otherwise, don't. Yeah, that is my advice for when it comes to investing.
Yeah, man. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, I guess.
Yes.
So now, if someone asks you for money or if someone's seeking for investment, what are your expectations from them?
Frankly, if you're talking about now has the time period because of the pandemic, I think nobody's at the moment investing. Okay, but generally, otherwise, I expect on what field they're wanting me to invest. What are the returns that I would understand? Because I think I always believe that I personally, being a very, very small time investor, I have a break-in period of 3 to 4 years. That's what I basically expect from investment, and it actually depends on which field, what is the idea, and whether that field is how that field is going to be 10 years down the line. It doesn't matter to me how it's going to be tomorrow or maybe next year, because in the end it's the hype that pushes it, propels it to new heights. But in the end, will it be able to sustain for 10 years or the long run? That is more important for me. And I think, yes, idea plays an important role. Then I'll try to understand whether that idea will make sense in a particular location, because see, I can't go to a desert and sell raincoats. It doesn't make sense. You understand, right? So the location, the geographical area, the target market matters a lot. So I'll figure all that out and then decide to invest. So I think having a proper plan going to any investor or VC is very important.
Speaking of risky investments, have you invested in cryptocurrencies?
Yes, and frankly, those are not risky compared to other risky investments I had. I think they're the least risky, investment, because at least you are, you are in a mindset that what cryptocurrency are risky. But yeah, I do invest in cryptocurrencies a lot, and I am also a trader. I used to be a trader in stocks, but now I'm trading in cryptocurrency because I think it's very volatile and it's very good for day traders, because there's a huge change in prices and profits and losses in a particular hour than wait for a whole day or the next day or morning to evening. And plus, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, they don't have a deadline. It doesn't close the market doesn't close in the evening. It's 24/7, right? So it's very good. And I think everyone should invest at least some amount in cryptocurrencies. Let's face it. I'm not saying, invest a lakh, invest 10,000 or 5,000, something that you might blow on a dinner party or a birthday party. Invest that in cryptocurrencies, because you need to understand that it is the future. We have major companies like MicroStrategy, etc., investing in cryptocurrencies heavily, especially Bitcoin. And I think apps are being decentralized. We have so many things working towards decentralization. I think companies are working towards receiving payments by crypto. I think crypto is the future, right? And we also have Ethereum, Ether, and then we have Bitcoin, we have ADA, we have Matic, which is an Indian-based startup. So eventually crypto. So I think crypto is the future, man. I think everyone should need to be a part of it. And yeah, please don't invest if you think you want to make millions. Don't do that. I would suggest you buy a new hodl where you hold it for a while till the value increases and keep it, or you sell it. It's up to you. And if you guys have a lot of Bitcoin and want to move, El Salvador is always there. They're accepting Bitcoins now. You can buy properties, and they have no, I think, property tax, etc. So it's a big. A lot of people are, it's a big new news that's happening recently. You must have seen, it's all over the news. And a lot of companies are moving towards. Not companies. A lot of countries are moving towards crypto now. So yeah. I think that will give you a financial freedom, because you don't have a third party controlling the value of. Like money, the value of the currency, like a bank. And plus, you need to understand that how crypto works is it's me giving you payment, right? There's no third person and there's no charge. Because normally what happens is you give the bank charges you something, and it comes to you. This is directly, and your transaction is recorded in a blockchain. So eventually nobody can cheat you. It's all there for everyone to see. So I think it's very open and very transparent. That's what makes crypto that good. And I think,
even I think the cryptos are the future, and I hope cryptos really take over and become mainstream. But because it's decentralized, it's making a lot of banks feel insecure. For example, speaking from my personal experience, I've got 2 notices from HDFC Bank telling me that I have to stop, putting money in crypto. Otherwise, they will restrict my account. I've gone back with the Supreme Court ruling and the recent RBI ruling telling them you can't do it. Here's what the Supreme Court has said. Do you think, a lot of people, especially governments, feel very insecure because of crypto?
See, one thing is there, banks will really feel insecure is because they're going to lose money. Banks work on your money, right? Eventually what happens, a lot of people do not know this. I mean, a lot of people do know this, but some people don't, is that the money you're putting in the bank is eventually invested or loaned out. That's how banks are paying you interest, right? Now imagine suddenly we shift all that money to crypto. They don't have hold of that money. They can't use that money unless you put it in a staking or, in a vault. They can't use that money to invest, right? So what happens is the value of crypto also is determined on how much the seller is willing to sell it for. It's a marketplace, right? How much a seller is selling for, and how much a buyer is ready to buy it for. So the value is determined like that. So, and plus I think currency has a problem, fiat in other words, has a problem of inflation or deflation, right? That plays a very important role. And if you noticed, your 1 rupee 10 years back could afford more things than what 1 rupee can do now. Unlike crypto, of course, crypto, the market crashes, the value crashes, but eventually, whether you like it or not, for example, talking about Bitcoin, the limited quantity of Bitcoin makes it more valuable. Why is it known as gold? Because it's limited to a particular number. Unlike you have Dogecoin. Now, the problem with Dogecoin is it's unlimited in supply, and eventually it is at the moment catching hype because of Elon Musk, but I'm pretty sure he has his own
agenda,
agenda or evil plan or whatever you say, who he has come up with something that he knows about that we don't, that he's hyping it up so much, or maybe he sees a future in it. But yes, I think again, when you're investing, I would prefer investing in gold and rocks.
Exactly. Yeah. And plus, no one can demonetize my cryptocurrencies.
Of course. No, see, the problem is you cannot regulate it. that is what is scaring the banks and the government. And right now they're taking a huge stand against cryptocurrencies. A lot of countries are banning Binance also at the moment. You must have read the news recently. So I think that is actually sad, but it is happening, where because our countries, governments want to control what you're doing. They want to control. The moment you lose control, that creates fear in the society, and they don't want that.
I know. And if someone speaks the truth, or if someone tells, we can regulate ourselves rather than the government regulating us, there will be problems for us.
It's always a problem, no?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, regulation and control existed from prehistoric times. I mean, when you think about it, I have nothing against religion or political views. I'm open to both. But when you think about it, everything is dividing. May it be what it is. In the end, it's divide and control. No matter what, may it be caste, race, religion, politics, it's always divide and control. So that want of controlling has always been there.
I think it's time that we as individuals take that control back. And cryptocurrencies is a good avenue. Yeah.
Very good avenue.
Speaking of going back to entrepreneurship, do you think being passionate is enough, or on top of that we should also learn to be practical?
I think being practical is very important. Unless you have a lot of money lying in your bank, you're not worried that you will lose money. But I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, you have to be practical. And there's a very beautiful talk given by Elon Musk also, which I totally agree, is that you cannot be wishful. Wishful thinking is very bad when it comes to entrepreneurship. You can't expect everything to go bad. I mean, everything to go good, because things can go bad in entrepreneurship. And I think being practical and having a strategy is very important, because I have seen myself lose a lot of money because I did not have a strategy. Because, for example, when you think about it, like, for example, if I am holding some Bitcoin and, I buy it for 10,000 rupees and I don't have a strategy, I might freak out and sell it for 5,000 rupees eventually, because I didn't have a strategy. But if I had a strategy, if I plan something, I'm going to hold it for 10 years, I might as well wait for the, money to come up and sell it for more. So you need to have a strategy of where you're going, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a combination of both passion and practicality.
Yeah, no, I think, passion is very important, but I think practicality, usually when you're passionate about something, you tend to look at all sides. And I think practicality eventually comes there. But I would not suggest you to be blind in love with what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's same. This sounds like marriage counseling. This is something that marriage counselors say. Love is only good in the beginning, but in order for a marriage to sustain, you have to be practical.
Practical, of course. I think respect and practicality is very important. Compatibility.
So, do you think, in a way, you're married to your business?
We all are, man. We all are married to a business. We are married to our spouse. We are married to the work you have, because we are stuck to it. We have to live with it, and without it, you can't live. Yeah. You know what I mean, right? So, yeah.
And now that things are slightly normalizing, I wouldn't say it's completely normal. Do you think now is a good time to open a new restaurant or a cloud kitchen?
I think, frankly, it's a good time to open a kitchen, because you have the time to open it up, you have time to set it up and start. But I think it frankly might be a good time, might not be a good time, because it depends on the location that you're in. For example, now if you're in a location where a lot of businesses are closing down, as an investor, I would think like this, is that if I'm in a location where everything is closing down, all the restaurants are closing down, and I have the money to tank, I would of course open a restaurant right now. I would open a restaurant where, it will eventually launch when the COVID pandemic, the lockdown gets over. But you need to understand one thing, there's a fear at the same time where what if there's a new lockdown coming? You get my point, right? So of course, it's a good thing as an investor. I don't mind opening a restaurant when rest of the restaurants are, closing down, or acquiring those restaurants, share of those restaurants, so that, they sustain this time, they tank through this time and open up later. It's a good time to invest if you have the money to sustain for a year or something. Otherwise, no.
Right now, which business do you think will click very well?
Medical. Medical, man. When it comes to hospitals and medical pharmacies and all that, never getting old. People always need medication. People are always sick. Food and medical.
Yep. And what is your advice for upcoming entrepreneurs?
My advice is you need to take risks first. When you're taking risks, please do not invest everything you have. Always, invest a really small amount into a business that you think is going to work. Do a lot of research. Do a proper SWOT analysis, because you need to understand that you're not the only smart one who has thought about this idea. And remember, just like your kids, your idea might seem the best to you, but it might not seem the best to others. Okay. And I think always have a mentor. Talk to people who already have businesses. Try to understand how the government works towards your business. What are the taxes that you will face, the regulations that you have to go through. Do not be a wishful thinker. Do not think you want to be a billionaire overnight. It takes a lot of time. Rome was not built in a day, but Nagasaki was destroyed in a day. So there's always two sides to think about.
Let's talk a little bit about the Realtalk community in Clubhouse. What exactly is the idea behind it?
Well, Clubhouse is a new app. Clubhouse Audio In is a new app that's come out, a new social media app, which I think will make a huge difference. Frankly, there are apps like it, like Discord and stuff like that, but something about Clubhouse that really clicked with me. And it's a place where you can join. It's at the moment invites only, but eventually it will be open to everyone. It's a place, it's a audio based room where a group of people come together, interact through a voice, where you have speakers, talented people, you have actors, you have movie stars, singers, activists come and talk about everything in life, where you can inspire people, educate people. I think before it's going to be used for something wrong, like Tinder, make it like Tinder, or make it like a dating site or something. I really would want it to become a place where you educate people. So I have a club on Clubhouse called the Real Talks. Again, Real Talks meaning we talk about the truth about life, because unlike Instagram or Facebook, where people post their dreamy life, where everything is perfect, which actually influences a lot of us, and a lot of us at this moment, because of the pandemic or because of the situation that they're in, are going through a lot of mental health problems. And Instagram is making it worse, because whether you like it or not, a lot of youth are influenced by Instagram, where people put up pictures of them enjoying money, going on vacations, having the best relationship or the best life or the best career. That is not true. That is not what life is about. And I want people to know that maybe on social media people do not portray their problems, because there's a beautiful saying that do not dry your laundry in open. Dirty laundry in open. Yeah. So people normally who post about the good things in life, and a lot of users take it seriously and wonder why my life is not as good as that. They start comparing, which is a bad thing. And I have started this Real Talk club where people can talk, speakers come and talk about the real life situations. For example, I have speakers like bloggers, we have influencers come and talk, we have doctors come and talk about the real stuff that they've actually faced, where a influencer or an actor who is the most who's famous, who has a huge fan following, who has a lot of money, who is suffering from depression. I want people to know that no matter who you are, how much money you have, or what status you have in the society, we all have problems. And just like how everything good is given out through social media, I want people to also learn that there is bad, and that will change the outlook of people and make them understand okay, life is not always good. Not everyone has enjoyed life the way it looks like on Instagram or on Facebook. So yeah, Real Talks is basically a club where people come and talk. We emphasize on topics that people don't talk about normally openly, because whether you like it or not, for example, if I want to be an influencer and I want to be a social media influencer, and I ask a social media influencers, hey, can you tell me how to be one? That person is not going to tell you. That's not, that person not going to tell you, what I faced all these problems. I went through mental health problems. I get affected by the number of likes I have or the comments I have. I get abused. I get harassed. I get, very nasty comments on messages, etc. You don't see that side of life. And this is what I use my club to bring to light to the audience, where they educate and we inspire them to do what they want to do and provide them a bigger stage where, they reach their audience.
And lastly, do you have hope now that, now if the lockdowns and if the pandemic is over, do you think our businesses and our communities will start thriving once again?
Yeah, I do have a hope on that, because you need to understand that I believe this theory called the cage theory is, whether you like it or not, all of us are caged right now, right? All of us stuck at home. Now, what is going to happen? Like, for example, any animal for that matter, if you cage it for a very long time and you open the cage, what's going to happen? They're going to run out. They're going to go mad, and this is going to happen. There's so many people who are going to explode eventually, and I think the businesses are going to thrive much more, because being a restaurateur, I'm expecting this lockdown to end, and people to eat every day for the next 1 week in restaurants. That's what I'm hoping for. But let's see, because at the moment you need to understand that people are also facing financial crisis, so that also might matter how they use services. But I'm expecting a boom in sales, or in sale of products or services after the lockdown ends.
Yeah, man, I hope that happens. Thank you so much for your time, Sunil. This was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.